Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters, people of all ages, types, and people. Welcome to Freshly Grounded. This is episode 70. We're very close to hitting that 100. That reminds me that I really do want to do a live episode for the 100th. Perhaps we will. This episode is by myself. It's an episode of Faisal. So lock yourselves in, guys. It's a great one. No, I'm joking. I mentioned in the episode, but normally we do episodes like this when we don't have any guests lined up, and we don't want to miss a week. This time is a bit different. We did have 3 amazing guests that we have lined up, but we weren't able to secure dates, and we're still kind of in communication. They've all confirmed that they're going to do Freshly Grounded, and they're huge guests, but it's just trying to get timings and stuff down. So this week I didn't want to miss an episode. I thought let's still put an episode out, and it's been nice, man. It's been nice to do an episode by myself, just to kind of catch you guys up with my thoughts. I haven't done an episode in a while like this. I speak about quite a few things. It is me rambling with my thoughts. In a lot of the episode, I'm speaking about a book that I've recently started reading that's really, really, really changed my life a lot, and how it relates to Islam. And we speak a lot about kind of ego, and we talk a bit about the Apple conference at the beginning. So yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' feedback on this episode, because like I say, it's a rare one. I don't often do episodes by myself, but I'd rather put out an episode and give you guys content for the week, because we release episodes every Friday, than to not put out an episode at all. But let me know. Like I said in this podcast episode, it's often, these episodes are often the ones that I listen to, by the hardcore Freshly Grounded fans, because obviously the episodes that we have guests, a lot of people want to kind of hear out the guests, and these episodes are more so listened to by you guys who are kind of you're into Freshly Grounded in general as a brand. So yeah, let me know your feedback on the episode. Let me know if you prefer for us to just miss a week than for me to actually just do an episode by myself. But for those of you guys who want to hear it, here is a 1-hour episode of my thoughts. This is episode 70, guys. Enjoy.
And welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded,
After that bit.
the brand new podcast
And after that bit?
by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Really?
So I was watching the Apple conference last night, and it was, normally I think every year I watch the Apple conference, or most years I watch it, and I watch it in full. And this year I think was the first year that I couldn't. I was in a meeting around the conference. What had happened is I tried to keep that time frame. So it was on at 6 p.m. UK time. So I tried to keep that time frame for the last week or two. I'm so sad. For the last week or two, I tried to keep that time frame completely available and free, so that I'm just at home in my bed with the Apple TV on watching the Apple conference. But this year that didn't work, unfortunately. The reason was I had a meeting, and the only time that we could make this meeting happen where everybody was available because of time constraints and everything was actually yesterday, and it was at 5 p.m. and then the meeting got delayed to 6 p.m. and 6 p.m. was when the conference started. So because I thought originally, all right, cool, I'm going to miss the conference, a bit of it, because my meeting's at 5, but if I could try and finish it early, I'll probably get home for the main gist of it, and then because I got there at 5 and then it ended up getting delayed till 6, so I pretty much basically missed the whole thing. But I'm also surprisingly happy that I did miss it, because I would have wasted so much time. I don't know if anyone, well, I'm sure the people listening are into tech to the level of, wanting to know about the new iPhone and this, that, the other. But it just wasn't that surprising or fun. I think that the main cool thing was that I believe that the new iPhone will be dual SIM finally, because I think one frustrating argument that Samsung users make is that Samsung has a lot more. What's the word? Samsung has a lot more. Basically, things you can do with it than iPhone. iPhone's more strict. And that's a valid argument that Samsung users make. So it's nice to see that we got the dual SIM in there now. Other than that, literally just another iPhone. Just the iPhone X version 2. Basically. Nothing different, which is annoying. And so I really, really, really need a new phone. I'm currently on the iPhone 6S. And I haven't had a new phone in a while, but this is just absolutely mashed up. So I was going to get the new phone that they released yesterday, but when they released it I was like, wow, there's literally hardly any differences here. You can't say literally hardly. Anyway, there's figuratively no differences here than the iPhone X, so I might as well just get the iPhone X. And now the price of the iPhone X will become cheaper because there'll be a new phone out. So I thought, but that's not even the case. They actually, I went on the Apple website this morning, and they've removed the iPhone X from there. So I'm assuming that what they're going to do is they probably realised, we actually haven't made a big difference this year, and so everyone's probably just going to buy the old iPhone, the iPhone X, because there's nothing majorly new about the iPhone XS or the iPhone XR, and so let's take that off sale. So they're not even selling the iPhone X, so I might be forced into buying the new iPhone, which I'm not doing, because it's like 1,000, I think it was like £1,500 for that top spec one, which is a joke. That is a joke. I think I paid for my phone. My phone at full price was like $649, which is a lot for a phone. But to go more than that is just absurd. So anyway, I think I'm going to get the iPhone X, the old one. And I think the way I'm going to have to do it is to get it on contract with like 3 before they stop stocking it. Because I spoke to their customer service team this morning, and they basically said, look, we don't know if we're going to get more in, blah, blah, blah. But the contract is £60 a month, which still seems very steep for someone like me, because my phone, I already bought it outright. And so I'm just paying for a regular SIM, like a pay monthly thing without the phone. So it's quite cheap. It's like, I think it's like £20 a month for unlimited everything. So to go from £20 to £60 is like, I don't know. So I've got a bit to think about. But yeah, watch Apple conference. And my main takeaway from that, give me a second. My main takeaway, I'm drinking like one of those shop bought espresso and milk cans. I'm having like a fake coffee. It tastes a lot like coffee, but it doesn't give you the coffee buzz. Anyway, yeah, man, these Apple conferences, so like you're just watching them and then you see the same faces every year, and they literally just use words that are really basic to make something sound really cool, and then everyone claps. So I was literally watching the show. I need to stop saying literally, to be honest. I was watching the conference, and so like the guy speaking would be like, now, last year we had and they all pause at that, like, last year we had the, what is it called? The, what do they call it? The retina display, right? So like, last year we had the retina display, and this year it's the best retina display that any smartphone has ever had, and we call it super retina display. And everyone's like, whoa! And it's like, bro, like, you just were super important. And there's so many things like that. Like, there was they were like talking about the Apple Watch. They've got like a new chip in it, which like nobody knows about at all. As in, like, I'm sorry, but the average person does not know anything about chips. Like, I do not know anything about chips, and I would consider myself fairly into tech, right? And so they talk about his new Apple Watch, and they're like, the new Apple Watch has a new chip, and we call it the B12. And everyone's like, whoa, the B12 chip. And that they just called it the B12 chip. That was the Apple conference in a nutshell yesterday. Where they were launching a new iPhone, they launched a new iPhone watch, and everything was just renamed or named. They put in words like super in front of it to like, and every other line was like the best whatever. So let's say, for example, they're talking about the screen or the chip or the well, so let's say they're talking about the screen. They're like, the best screen in any smartphone yet. That's everything. That was the line for everything. Everything was like, then in any smartphone yet. So that was a little update about the Apple conference for those of you guys who wanted to know about that. I feel like these episodes of Freshly Grounded, where it's just me speaking, are like one of my favorite because I'm just able to talk to you guys about what's been going on in my life and like my thoughts, etc. for like the last few weeks since I last did an episode like this. But I feel like it's also the episode that only like the hardcore fans listen to, because you know we get a lot of views on episodes that have a lot of guests. Last week's episode got so many downloads, man. SubhanAllah, the episode with Suleiman, that was amazing. But his story was great. But you know, those episodes obviously get a lot of views because you know people are interested in those people's stories, and these episodes really get like the least amount. But you can really see like kind of the true fans of Freshly Grounded come through and they listen to these episodes. So yeah, man, we had quite a few episodes planned actually this week. Normally we do an episode like this, like where it's just me speaking to the camera, on such a rare occasion when I've been so busy, so I haven't had a chance to like arrange a guest, or we just haven't managed to like, put a guest together, etc. And we end up doing an episode like this. This week was a lot different. What actually happened this week is we had 3 guests lined up, and it's fair to say that 3 powerful guests, like 3 really, really, really good guests. Like one of them would be the most viewed Freshly Grounded episode ever. The second one would have been mad beneficial, and the third one as well. So anyway, we had all 3 of them, and everyone has agreed to do Freshly Grounded. And they even pretty much agreed to like timings and stuff. We just didn't nail down a specific time. But then what ended up happening is like, for example, I was speaking to one of them. I'll try and nail them down for this week, and then they were like, yeah, cool, we can kind of do it. But they didn't. I was kind of going back and forth with them trying to nail down like an actual date and time, and I don't want to then try and nail down another date and time with someone else, and then they've said yes, and then in the meantime the people who I first messaged about doing an episode of Freshly Grounded get back to me and they're like, oh yeah, we can do that, and then I'm like, I've double booked. So I was kind of waiting on people to get back to me, and that's the tough thing about booking in guests and stuff. It's not easy, but we do have 3 fire episodes coming up at some point, because all of these 3 guests are confirmed, and I know you guys are going to love these episodes, inshallah. So they're going to be big. But in the meantime, you got me. And I actually am quite happy that we're doing this episode, because I've got so much to catch up with you guys on. First of all, in the time that I've last had a chat where we're just kind of talking, or where I'm talking and you guys are listening, in that time I've read a book that has... I'm going to use the word again, literally changed my life. Over the past few weeks, this book has literally changed my life. And I say that I read a book. I didn't. I listened to it. I kind of cheated. I've heard so many people speak about Audible. And so I downloaded it. So basically, I heard about this book. The book is called... Who's ready for it? Nate's here in the background. He's probably going to like get so annoyed with me saying it, because I've been mentioning this book so much. But I've been reading the book, and the book is called The Obstacle is the Way. And it is phenomenal. I would recommend it to everyone. I'd recommend it to everyone. Hey, everyone. I'd recommend it to you. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. It's amazing. So I kind of heard a bit of this book on audiobook, like a little preview. Actually, I first heard the preview of this book when I was in Morocco. Did I go to Morocco before or after Ramadan? I want to say, after. So just after Ramadan, I went to Morocco. Took my wife away on a little holiday. because I had a really busy Ramadan. I hardly got to see my wife. I was away for like the second half of Ramadan. It was in Mecca, as you guys know, and the first half I was literally doing like charity appeals and presenting for Iman channel and stuff. So I really didn't get to see my wife much. And so what I did is I took her away after we decided to go away to Morocco with just a short holiday. And that is there was a hotel gym, and I started listening. I heard like a preview. I was listening to I just came across like, it's called something like how to deal with stress in high, or how to manage in high stress situations, something. It was like a podcast bit, and I clicked play and I listened to it for my gym workout, and it was amazing. And then I never like did anything off the back of it. And then I remember in London a few weeks ago, I was just driving or something, and I was quite stressed, I think, with like a lot of work and a lot of meetings. And then I remembered that episode. So I went back to it because I had downloaded it, so it was in my downloads, and I listened to it again, and I actually heard that was a preview clip of a book called The Obstacle Is the Way. And so I was like, I have to get this book. It sounds amazing. It's helping me deal with my problems. I'm going to tell you guys in a minute. The majority of this podcast is probably going to end up being about The Obstacle Is the Way, so I'm going to take my time telling you guys about it, which is great because we're on a podcast, and so I have no time limit. Right, so I was like, I've got to get this book because it's helping me so much manage my stress. And this is like, all I've heard is like a preview of like 3 different chapters. If there's a whole book on this concept, I need to get it. And I'm not really huge on like self-help stuff in regards to like listening to self-help stuff or reading self-help stuff, because actually no, I'm big on reading it, but I'm not big on like listening to self-help stuff because it sounds too commercialized and too manufactured, and it just, sometimes when you're watching self-help videos, you can see in the person's eyes the amount of money they're making off it, and it just seems so fake. It's like he's literally doing this, he's saying a bunch of words because he just knows how to trigger emotion and then make money. So it's annoying, but no, this didn't give me that feeling. So I was gonna look for this book, and I thought, hold on a second. I've heard about Audible for years, and this isn't an ad for Audible, but I've heard about Audible for years, which is basically audiobooks where someone will read the book out to you, basically, kind of like a podcast that you're listening to now, but just reading a book. So why don't I try out Audible and try it with this book? So I went on Audible's website, and it turned out you could get a free trial for a month. So I got a free trial, and with that free trial you get 1 free book. There was a few issues with my account, as in there was like some technical issues. My book wasn't showing up, and so I managed to convince them to actually give me 2 free books. But we'll go into that in a second. So I got The Obstacle Is the Way by Ryan Holiday as my free book, and I started listening to it, and I find it very hard to get time to read books, right? Even though I really want to read books, and I really have realised the potential of reading books. And probably the person who opened my eyes up to books the most is a person called Sam, not Big Man Sam, but Sam from university. And he used to read books a lot, and I used to kind of like laugh at the fact that he used to read books. And then I was really attracted to the idea that he was so, like, he didn't care. He was like, yeah, I like books, and he was really proud of it. And I suppose when you like kind of, even in life, when people like laugh at you, if you actually stick to your moral, if you stick to it, they'll respect it. And I was that horrible bully. No, not bully. I was that horrible person who was like, ha 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 ha. And I was like, then he like stuck to it. I was like, oh, actually, maybe I'm the loser here. And I was, because I opened my eyes up to books, and books are amazing. What was I saying? Okay, I'd love to have the time to read books, but if I'm honest with you, it's very hard for me to finish a book, even if I love it. So one of the books that I was really kind of interested in was the 48 Laws of Power, which is a very, very controversial book, because some people say that it's just like building ego, other people say that it's great because it's just honest. But either way, I wanted to read it, and I loved reading it. And if you ask Big Man Sam, I started reading it like ages ago, and you know, we went to Gambia in like end of 2016, and I was reading it on the plane and stuff. And I think we went back to Gambia in 2018, and I was still reading it. So I'm not going to benefit from a book if I'm taking that long to read it, right? So I thought, let me try Audible, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to try it. And the second reason I wanted to try Audible is because I thought, if I can read a book on Audible, I could see that my socks were on camera view, so I thought, let me check if they're clean, and they are. Alhamdulillah, I change my socks every day. Nah, I'm good. I think it's kind of working better with this, to be honest. The mics. Right. So, long story short. Well, it's not really long story short because I've literally made it long. So, long story long. I started listening to Why on Holidays, The Obstacles Way. Oh no, this is the second thing I was going to say. I was going to say the other reason I wanted to read. The other reason I wanted to read this book on Audible, listen to this book on Audible, is so that anytime I do have to read, I can read the Quran or I can read Islamic books, right? So now I'm not feeling as guilty because if I've only got a certain amount of time to read, like, you know, sometime, you know, before bed or like, you know, when my family's out, etc., I can pick up a book and I can read it, which is very rare. So if I get that chance, or if I'm able to even read once a day, then I want to be able to read the Quran and maximize that, because that, when you're reading it, it's majestic, it's a miracle. But the other books, like for example, The Obstacles Way, that can just be, if I can utilize getting that information in a faster way, that I can spend more time. It's just about being as effective as you can, innit, with your time management. So it was about 6.5 hours long, and I must have finished the book in about a week and a half. My journeys to and fro work, to and from the gym, I finished it, and it was amazing. And I'm gonna keep the book because I'm gonna listen to it again and again and again. I've listened to it once now, but I need to listen to it again because I need to really internalize it. And I'm also going to buy the paper copy now, and I'm going to highlight the bits I'm so interested in. That's how much it's affected and changed my life so much already. Also, like, some of the most successful people in the world have said that they've read. So this book was based off of a book by Marcus Aurelius, who was a Roman emperor, I think. He had a book called Meditations, Marcus Aurelius, and it was kind of notes to himself, and that book is so powerful. And so The Obstacle is the Way is based off of that book, right? And so Meditations is a book that some of the most successful people in the world say, and when I say successful, I'm talking like the Bill Clintons, etc., successful in terms of dunya. They say that they have, one person said that he'd read it over 100 times. Another person, I think it was Bill Clinton, who said he reads it once every year. Is that beneficial? And that's Meditations, obviously, the book that was kind of inspired The Obstacles Way. Okay, what is the book about? Why has it changed my life so much? The book is about a concept called Stoicism. And Stoicism, if you guys listen to Tim Ferriss's podcast, or if you listen to a bunch of stuff, Tim Ferriss, I think Stoicism is talked about in a lot of kind of podcasts and in the business world a lot, right? And Stoicism, in fact, let me get you guys the definition of Google of Stoicism. And for some of you, it's going to blow your mind in a second, and I'll tell you after why. So The Obstacles Away, the whole book is based off of Stoicism, yeah? Okay, definition of Stoicism on Google. The first definition I see: the endurance of pain or hardship without the display of feelings and without complaint. Let me say that again. The endurance of pain or hardship without the display of feelings and without complaint. Synonyms. It says underneath the definition, it says synonyms, which are obviously similar, or words with similar meaning. The first synonym, patience. So now, when I say that this is going to blow some of your guys' mind, and the reason I say that is because Stoicism is this huge theory that's been around for years that people have dedicated their life to studying, that people have literally said this is the secret to life, and it goes so much deeper than what the definition that I just explained. People who say that this is the reason for my success. That some of the top CEOs in the world read this on a constant basis, and it's saying on the Google definition is endurance of pain or hardship without showing any feelings, basically, without displaying your feelings and without complaining. What hit me is that this is a concept that is not something that these guys have come up with. This is a Quranic concept that is known as Sabrun Jamil. Now, I'm not an Islamic scholar, I'm not a teacher, I don't have knowledge to the point where I'm going to go on about Sabrun Jamil in depths of it, but I will talk about it slightly. But sabr and jamil, essentially, if I'm not mistaken, is at the highest form of sabr. So sabr, patience, is obviously, it's so deep, basically, that I couldn't even explain. It's not just having patience. Obviously, as we know, sabr, patience, is about, having patience upon hardships, accepting hardship, accepting that everything is from God's decree, not complaining, etc., etc., etc. But sabrun jamil is, thank you, bro. I forgot something on my lip. Oh, the whole time. Here, this side. Really? Apparently, for the past 20 minutes of this podcast, I've had something on my lip. Sabrun jamil it translates to beautiful patience. Now, I wanted to talk about this idea of sabrun jamil to somebody when we next have a person of knowledge on. I'm going to speak to them about it in depth, because I really want to ask them loads of questions about it, because I'm so interested in it now. But essentially, sabrun jamil is, I believe, the highest level of patience, and it translates in English to beautiful patience. So sabr is patience, obviously, in Arabic, well, somewhat, and jamil means beautiful, so the beautiful patience. And it basically means that you can, through hardship and through stress and through difficulty, instead of panicking, you can have you can show the persona that everything's okay. Now, that doesn't mean, sabr and jamil does not mean ignoring or disregarding emotion. That's not what it means, and that's what this book talks about. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk a bit about the book and how the book explains Stoicism, and I'm going to use the word Stoicism to explain that. And the reason being is not because I believe more in Stoicism than in Sabr and Jamil, not at all, even though they're very similar concepts. But obviously, if something is in the Quran, it is the best. Do you know what I mean? But the reason I'm going to talk about Stoicism rather than calling it Sabr and Jamil is because I don't have the knowledge to define Sabr and Jamil and to really go into it, because it's an Islamic concept. I don't want to make mistakes. So I'll talk to you guys about Stoicism, but just know that the thing that hooked me onto Stoicism so much was the fact that I put a connection in my head of how Stoicism and Sabr and Jamil, how much they connect, basically. And so yeah. Now, the reason it also hit me so hard is because, often I've had this myself. Someone will like read a book and they'll recommend it and say, "Oh my gosh, this is the best book. You guys need to read it. You guys need to read it. You guys need to read it." And then you read it and you're like, "This book was, the book was, the book was." But then the person who read it and recommended it to you is like, "This is the best book ever." But you're like, "I read the book, it was." Now, I think the reason for that is because as people, we all have different past experience, we have different emotions, we have different genetics, we have different things. So for example, I might struggle a lot with being patient, and so this book has affected me greatly. But I might now say to my brother Omar, Omar, you need to read this book, it's amazing, it's going to change your life. And he might read it and he might be like, it didn't really change my life. And the reason is because Omar is, Allahumma barik, a very patient person. So perhaps the book is not a remedy, the book is a remedy for, when people medicine. I'm not saying this book is medicine, subhanallah. I'm really trying to make sure this like topic does not become like shirky for sure, man, because the only book that is a cure is the Quran. But what I'm trying to say is that an example is that if, for example, I have a really bad headache and I want some paracetamol, and then I take the paracetamol, I'm like, wow, this has been amazing, my headache has gone, and then I give the paracetamol to Omar and he doesn't have a headache, and I'm like, how amazing was that pill? He'd be like, well, it hasn't changed me at all. So that's what I'm trying to get at. So I think that one of the reasons this book has affected me greatly is because I really do struggle with the idea of patience, with the idea of dealing with stress, dealing with panic, and so this book was great for that. So some of the stuff that also I was talking about like what Stoicism isn't. So what Stoicism is not is how to ignore the emotion or how to deter or how to block the emotion out. In our lives, there's a lot of people who we see and we think to ourselves, wow, that person is so strong emotionally, and it takes a lot to get them down. And as I say that, I'm thinking about a certain person in my head, and as you guys are listening to this, you're probably thinking about a certain person in your head, and you're probably thinking, wow, yeah, that person is really strong. Now, a lot of the times, the reason that person is so strong is because what they do, and I'm not saying this for everyone, but a lot of people, what they do, people who come across strong, is they actually, when they're dealt difficulty and hardship, they choose to block that emotion and to ignore it and to kind of let it go over their head. So they don't accept the emotion, right? And so then it's almost like being heartless, right? Not saying that these people are heartless, but they almost build up this level of heartlessness so that they don't have to deal with this thing, so they don't get affected as easily. Some of you might be listening to this saying, wow, that is literally me. Now, that's great for a few reasons. It's great because you won't let things get to you, and you'll be able to deal with things without you'll be able to probably deal with things with ration and without dealing with it on an emotional level, or your emotions overriding your logic, right? Which is great. The disadvantage of being like that is that at some point you're going to have a massive breakdown because all of the emotions are going to hit you at once, right? So what Stoicism and the Obstacle is the Way teaches, the obstacle is the way basically says, we're going to teach you how to accept that emotion and then how to deal with it in the correct way, not to ignore it. And that is the best thing you could do. The best thing you could do is accept the emotion and deal with it in the correct way. And so what the book isn't teaching is, it's not teaching that, oh, if you're having a problem, don't talk to anyone about it, deal with it yourself, and then you block it up. And, you know, because like if you do that, if you have problems and you don't speak to people about it, and you just try and bottle it and deal with it yourself, yeah, of course you're going to have a breakdown, and it could lead to really bad situations. Like at an extreme level, it could lead to suicide, bottling up your problems. But what it is saying is, okay, yes, if you have problems to that extent, of course you need to speak about it, speak to the right people about it, talk to people about your problems. But what it's saying is general situations, most situations in life, daily situations, work stress, family stress, etc., are not of that degree that they're gonna result to a person trying to commit suicide or whatever, right? So this book is basically saying that if you can master dealing with even the most incremental issues in the best way, then even your bigger issues you'll be able to deal with. So these are things like how to deal with panic. If you've all of a sudden got a situation at work where, you know, you've made a huge blunder and your boss is going to be about to like go mad at you for it, instead of panicking, how do you deal with it in the best way? And it gives different examples of ways to help. So it gives one example which is really cool. It says that it gives an example of astronauts. So it says that astronauts essentially, when they go to space, for us, if we panic in life, let's say for example the podcast doesn't get recorded, I'm panicking, or the last half an hour hasn't been recorded and I'm panicking, right? It's not a life or death situation. It sucks for me because I'm not able to put the episode out, but it's not the end of, it's not life or death, right? If I panic, it's not life or death. Now, if you're an astronaut in space and everything you do matters, then panicking is life or death. And it could be the life or death of you and your fellow astronauts. Regardless of what you think about space, this is just an example it gave. It's life or death, right? And so when astronauts go to space, they fly to space, and a lot of them spend like a week just managing their heart rate and their panic levels. That's all they're doing up there. Why are they doing that? Because if they panic up there, it's a matter of life and death. That basically shows how important panic is, and we need to deal with panic in that way. We need to make sure we're always managing our panic level so we don't panic, because when we panic we deal with things in a really bad way. So it teaches you how to do that. Another example is positive thinking, in ways where accepting that you can't control certain situations. So accepting that not everything is in your control. Obviously we believe that everything is in the control of Allah, and so certain things you just can't do anything about it, and you have to accept that. One example that was given was Thomas Edison, who I believe is the guy who invented the light bulb. Correct me if I'm wrong, unless that's someone else who sounds very similar, but I'm pretty sure that's him. He had a huge factory where he would build all these inventions, and he came home one day from work and he got a message basically saying that his factory that he's spent his whole life building is on fire, in a massive fire. And he ran there and he saw it, and the whole building is on fire, all of his life's work, all of his ideas, everything in this huge blaze that can't be controlled, right? And instead of panicking and stressing and crying about it, he accepted that there's nothing he could do about it now, and so he chose to be positive about it. And so he actually ran to find his son. He said to his son, "Find your mother and her friends." And then the son was like, "Why?" And he was excited about it, and the son was like, "Why?" And he said, "Well, they're never gonna see such an amazing fire again in their life." That was his reaction. Now, some people might say that's crazy, but this is the kind of stuff that the Obstacle is the Way teaches. Essentially, what it teaches is that in life, when there are problems, that problem is not actually a problem. That's actually the root. That obstacle is the way. It's really interesting. I'm not going to go into more about it because I've spoken about it for about 20 minutes now, and I'm sure some of you don't care at all. But it really has changed. It's made a huge difference in my life. Like, I'm not a master at dealing with issues and problems now, or with panic, but it's really helped. And if you haven't got Audible, definitely get it. It's better than listening to music and stuff on your journeys, isn't it? Listen to a book. I would recommend Obstacles Away. If you download Audible, you get a first month free. Well, I got it free. I don't know if they're still doing that offer, but they were doing. I'm sure they are, because Audible is actually accompanied by Amazon, and Amazon customer service is great. So they have like 24/7 support. So if you have any issues, like I did, I was ringing them at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and they were fixing my issues, and I made them give me an extra book. Actually, the extra book that I got is called Ego is the Enemy. And that book is also by Ryan Holiday. It's by the same guy who wrote The Obstacles Away. So I thought, let me give that a listen. So after I finished Obstacles Away, I started Ego is the Enemy, which I thought I would love even more than Obstacles Away, because I am really big on this idea of ego being the enemy. But it's not as good as Obstacles Away, or it just hasn't hit me. Maybe I'm expecting too much because I was so amazed with The Obstacles Away. Or maybe because in The Obstacles Away I was hearing so much new information that I was not aware of, and it was really affecting me positively, whereas perhaps in Ego is the Enemy, the reason it's not affecting me as much is just because I already agree that ego is the enemy. You know what I mean? Like, whereas Obstacles Away I was learning new information. Speaking about ego, guess who I came across the other day on Instagram or something, I'd heard, I don't know, I remembered Bow Wow. Who remembers Bow Wow? I sound like one of those older uncles who's like, oh, I remember back when Bow Wow. But no, the reason, obviously I haven't thought about anyone like that in so long, but the reason I thought of that is because I think in recent years, there's been like a lot of articles about him, because, you know, I think like a year or two ago, he was like, he took a picture in front of a private jet, and then was pictured actually flying economy that same day. And so he might, like, everyone was like kind of laughing at him because he took a picture in front of a private jet as if he's flying private, and then later that day he was actually in economy on like a regular passenger plane. And then I think since then there's been like a number of things that he's done where like it's just like basically trying to portray himself in a certain way that he hasn't. And the reason I like that discussion is because it's so highly based off ego, and it's really sad, because the reason it's sad is because what happens is when a person becomes famous, not that I know, but you can see that when someone becomes famous, the correlation that we have as society is that person is rich. And as a human, that builds a person's ego. So it's like, yeah, like people think I'm rich, right? Or if they are rich, it's like, oh, I'm rich. I'm not saying Bow Wow wasn't rich, but I'm saying that that's what it created, right? And so there was a time where obviously probably he had loads and loads and loads of money, and he probably could afford private jets and stuff. And in recent years he hasn't done anything major, from what I know. Obviously, I'm not following the scene that much, so potentially I could be completely wrong. But the point is an example, because it's something that's happened a lot with celebrities. That, let's say for example, he's not doing anything major, so he's making less money. Maybe he's not even making any money. Like if people, the difference, there's no difference between celebrities and non-celebrities. If you're out of a job, you're out of a job. It means you're not earning money, right? And in a lot of ways, celebrities, because they've had so much money in the past, they're actually worse at managing money than regular people like us. Because even though I'm really bad at managing money, but because they get so much of it at one point, they just think it's always going to come like that, right? And so the sad thing is that if a person who's famous is rich, if they lose their money, they still don't lose their fame. So you can have like 2 million followers on Instagram but be broke, and then it's like tough, because your ego is going to play a part. Like, I have to now like stunt like I've got money but I haven't, and it must be a really tough situation for the person, for like the celebrity, etc., to be in a situation where it's like, I'm going to be judged if I don't now show that I've got money, I'm going to be judged. There's so many ways you can think about it, but essentially a lot of it's to do with ego, obviously. Trying to portray yourself in a certain way and feeling like you have to. And it's embarrassing if like at one point you were seen as something and then you're not. But I think about that a lot, because there were so many even like famous people growing up, like famous people in like, for example, the grime industry and stuff. Like when we were younger, I'm 24, so like when I was in like high school and stuff, like there was like it was like Channel U and stuff was really big, and so there was people there who were just like artists who maybe had like a one-hit wonder, and then maybe got a bit of money and stuff, and then that was it. But to this day, they have a huge following, but they haven't done anything since. And it's like they must struggle in the sense that they might be struggling financially, but they got this huge following. Oh, it must be so tough. I don't know what my point was with that. I suppose it's another reason to want to stay private, he says in a contradicting manner. But that's tough, man. That must be tough. That must be tough for the person. It must be tough for like on all ends. Like it's tough. Money's a sticky situation, isn't it? It's like where people like expect, like for someone famous like that oh, like they got so much money. It just must be weird. Like they have to almost, like for example, I remember there was another news article that came out that Madonna was flying in what do you call it, economy, right? And it was like a huge news article about it. Madonna flies economy. I was thinking to myself, like, even if she has loads of money, like the difference is insane. You pay £300 for a normal flight, economy. You pay 3,000 for business class or first class. Why should it matter if she's flying economy? If she's comfortable, do you know what I mean? I mean, personally, I'm not going to lie. If I had that much money, well, I say that much money, I don't know how much money she has, but if I had like a lot of money, I probably would want to fly business class. That sounds really obnoxious, but long journeys on a plane, I just feel like, you know, Bill Gates has a private jet, and they asked him, like, how come you don't like spend a lot of money? And he said, well, I don't really feel the need to spend a lot of money, but I do have a private jet, because the one thing I do like to enjoy of all the things is like I like a bit of comfort when I travel. And I'm like, you know what? Fair play, bro. You know what? Fair play, bro. Fair play. Fair play. I would do the same, to be honest. I would love to just be comfortable when I travel. Fair play. But there was another. The reason I'm bringing this up is there was another guy. He was in a really famous show. I think it was called, in America, I think it was The Cosby Show or something else. But he was really famous. He was like one of the main characters on it. Seinfeld, I can't remember. And he was huge, very famous, known all over America. He was on this famous show. Imagine someone like in England who is on like, I don't know, EastEnders or something. And now he does, he works as a checkout person in a supermarket or something. And everyone's taking pictures of him on a regular basis and he doesn't mind, and like, more power to him. He's like broken that ego of saying like, you know, oh, what if people recognize me? He's just like, you know what, I need to earn money, I'm going to do it. Even though I was like, at one point in my life, one of the most famous people in the country and the most famous TV show in the whole country as well. But recently he actually quit because I think it was because someone started like mocking him and like oh, he became like, on the internet he started getting like mocked a lot and stuff because he was like it just got too embarrassing for him because of like how much he was getting mocked. And that's really sad, man, because the guy's trying to make ends meet. He's paying his bills. He said he didn't mind doing supermarket checkout. He was struggling to get acting jobs, and just because he was rich and famous at one point, everyone expects, oh, you can't, oh, look at you. Do you know what I mean? That's sad. Mean people are not nice, huh? They ain't. I tell you what's expensive though, speaking about cost. You want to know what's one of the most expensive things you'll ever own? A car. A car. Now you might be saying, Faisal, I'll buy my car for 2 or 3 grand, second hand. It'll do me just fine for a good few years. It ain't that expensive. Guys, cars are so expensive. I know that some of you guys are listening to this in a car, but I'm just shocked, yeah. My car, like when you get a car, even if you're on point with your bills, like your insurance and your MOT and everything, I feel like, and I got a car on a very low mileage. It was very reliable, alhamdulillah. But it's like every month I get a notification on my car that says, I need to change my oil. Next month it'll be like, check your brake light. You need to change your brake lights. Next month you need to service. Next month you need to change your front lights. Next month you need to change, I don't know, this, that, the other. Then randomly be driving down the road, you get a puncture, you could get a new tyre. Cars are expensive. I'm really not doing Sabr on Jamil here. I'm complaining. But it reminded me. I was also driving down. Listen to maybe the worst advert of 2018. I was driving into work today and there's a huge billboard in like the middle of London. Oh, I finished my drink now. Are you guys ready to hear the worst advert of 2018? I was driving down to work this morning, middle of London. I see a billboard, right? The billboard says, I think my battery's about to run out on my camera. The billboard says, I've got a spare one here to be honest. Let me just change that. I'm currently changing the battery in the camera. So you guys are going to have to wait for this story. But while you wait for this story, have a think about some of the worst billboard advertisements you've seen. And then wait for me to drop this advert that I saw this morning. And you'll say to yourself, how does that even relate to the product? It was the worst. Alright, we're almost back on now. Alright. Okay, we're back on. So I'm driving down to work this morning and I see a billboard, and the billboard says something along the lines of I can't remember now. More people in London have had a one-night stand than have tried sushi. And then it said, let's Google it. More people, one-night stand, sushi. It was the stupidest advert. Oh, I can't find the advert anywhere. It was basically an advert for Yo Sushi, but it was the stupidest way of advertising anything. More people want to stand sushi advert. It was the stupidest advert. Okay, I can't find it. Let's type in on Instagram. Always has him sushi advert. Sushi ad. Nope. Sushi advert. Hashtag sushi advert. I can't find it. Anyway, it was dumb. That's all I've got to say about that. It was a dumb ad that was comparing sushi to the healthy act of one night stands. Okay. I also went to the dentist yesterday. Yes, I did. And I had the weirdest experience when I went to the dentist, because what happened is I was having an x-ray in my teeth. And what they do when they do an x-ray in your teeth is they put this like x-ray palette inside your mouth, right? Then you close your mouth, so you've got this thing in your mouth that is going to absorb, I don't know what kind of electricity from the x-ray. And then they put this huge machine that's going to shoot this electricity next to your face. And then they like press the button, and then it like takes a quick x-ray of your mouth, right? So they're literally sending like this like stuff into your face, into your mouth. Now, I don't mind that whole process, even though it seems a bit dodgy. I don't mind, because I'm in a dentist with a dentist who has had over 21 years of experience in dentistry. I'm in a professional working environment. They obviously know what they're doing, right? Now, here's the thing that worries me with this x-ray. So the dentist puts this x-ray palette in my mouth. He says, close your mouth. Close my mouth. He then moves this big machine to the side of my face where they're going to do the x-ray. Then his assistant presses the button, which has a delay. So when she presses the button, it doesn't take the picture straight away. She presses the button. She literally sprints out of the room when she's pressed the button as fast as she can. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? Maybe she needs a toilet. I don't know, right? Sprints as fast as she can out of the room. Then I'm thinking, cool, it's just me and the dentist here. It's fine. He'll stay here with me. The dentist then gets up and sprints as fast as he can outside of the room. Now it's just me in the room with this x-ray machine taking a picture of me. And the thing that worries me is that if it's that dangerous, why is it on my face? And why is a professional doctor who's had 21 years of experience in this leaving the room? It must not be safe. So at this point, I literally want to get up and run out of the room with these guys, but I'm attached to this x-ray palette, and the scariest thing, and then they, after it's done, they all come in and they're like, okay, cool. Then they take the palette out, put a new one in, and they move the machine to the other side of my face, and then lo and behold, She presses the button. She runs out. He runs out. They run out as if they're panicking. They run out as if something really dangerous is about to take place. And it's actually the way they run out, which is the scariest bit. Because if they was like, okay, we're about to take an X-ray. Obviously, I understand that there's going to be these rays and stuff, so they have to leave. But if they were like, okay, we're going to take this X-ray, just for safety, it makes like, or whatever. If you're just in the room with the pallet, it has best results, so we're just going to stand like behind the door, blah, blah. But they don't explain anything. They just run. And I wanted to run as well. So it was a lovely dentist though, and a really good experience. But I'm just saying that it scared me a little. It scared me a little. I was speaking to this guy yesterday in the mosque. After I had the dentist appointment there yesterday, and then I went to the mosque after. I speak to this guy called Ayub, and we were saying about how amazing would it be if, like, the peace that you get in a mosque. It's like a type of peace. It's a spiritual peace you don't get anywhere else. Like when you're in the mosque, and you have this like sense of calm and peace, and all your worries just leave you instantly, and you don't get that feeling anywhere else. And we were talking about that, and I was thinking to myself, I said to Ayub, I said, imagine how much we work and how much we do our ibadah, and sometimes it feels like an 80-20 split. Now I understand that work is ibadah, like we have to work to earn money, to put food over our heads, to provide for our families, etc. So we can see it is an ibadah, but it just doesn't seem right, the percentage, like it doesn't seem right that the majority of our days work and then we do a bit of ibadah. Like surely it should be the other way around. Like surely it should be flipped. Like, but then with how prices are, with how how much rent costs and how much bills are, it wouldn't even be possible to like not work that much. Nowadays you have to earn such a high amount of money just to be able to like survive, right? But then I was thinking, but is it possible? Because people do it. And me and Ayub were talking about this concept that yes, like it's a test, innit? Like it's a test from Allah. Like you can't just do your ibadah. There's so many stories and narrations about people who just did ibadah all their lives and they lacked on like other rights that people had over them and stuff. So we're not saying, but what I'm saying is that there are people who exist in life who have mastered residual income, who have mastered building up businesses or building things up where they can earn money by doing less work and then focus on their ibadah. And even though that's a very rare few amount of people, if it's possible, then why can't we do it? Because we're humans too. Do you know what I mean? Like that's how I started thinking. I started thinking like that would be ideal, and then we kind of accepted. We were like, nah, but that's our last test, innit? So if that's our last test, we'll deal with it. But just because it's a test from Allah doesn't mean you don't have to try and improve your situation for your ibadah. That's like saying, for example, let's say for example, like you have very low income to the point where you can't even pay zakat, because obviously there's a threshold in it. Like you don't have to pay zakat. So let's say for example you can't even pay zakat, yeah, because your income is that low. You could say, oh, it's a test from Allah that my income is this low, or you could say, all right, it's a test from Allah, but I can still try and improve it. I can still try and work harder so I can get more income, so I can do stuff like more ibadah, like pay zakat. So me and Ayub kind of ended the chat on saying, oh, but it's a test from Allah. Alhamdulillah, this is how it works and this is life. But then I was thinking, actually, but why not try? Why not try and build up that residual where, like, an ideal situation for me in life would be I could do Freshly Grounded once a week. And just, obviously Freshly Grounded is not going to be a once a week thing because it takes a day to film it, it ends up taking a day to edit it, upload it, etc. But I'm saying it's much less work. Do you know what I mean? So imagine, for example, you were able to build something like that where you're able to earn a residual and then put the majority of your time in your ibadah. And we should all be thinking about ways we can do that. Whether or not, I'm not saying Freshly Grounded is that way, but like obviously there's a lot of people who do it in the property industry because they can just earn money off rent. But in the property industry, it's tough as a, like if you don't want to deal with mortgage and that kind of stuff, it's a tough industry to get into for us. But we're thinking about worth thinking about. Ladies and gents, brothers and sisters, this was 1 hour of my thoughts. Thank you so much for listening, guys. It was a different episode. It was an enjoyable one for me because I'm a chatterbox. I didn't want to not put out an episode even though we didn't have a guest, so I'm glad I did it still. Let me know your guys' thoughts because I'm always interested, did you make it to the end? If you did, then I'm assuming that you liked it, because otherwise you probably only made it halfway or less. We love feedback on Freshly Grounded. We don't get enough of it. We get a lot of it. We don't get enough of it. So do give us your feedback. We do listen. We do read. We read the DMs. We read everything. So do send us your feedback. We read the emails. The emails are amazing. I wish that we could get back to them all, but I don't want to say that we will and then not be able to, but we do read them for sure, and we should get back to them. We should get better at them. A lot of times it ends up being a one-man band, so it's hard to you end up having to prioritize the edits and getting episodes out on time and stuff. But yeah, I'd love your guys' feedback, especially on this episode, because would you guys have preferred an episode where I just missed a week and then just did an episode next week? Let me know. Thank you very much for listening, guys. This was Freshly Grounded. I am Faisal Chowdhury, and we're out of here.